All right, people, you guys are watching and or listening to and tuning into another Nomadic news episode, guys. I know it's been a while. I'm supposed to do these monthly. I just did not get around to it last month. So I apologize for that. But in the meantime, I've had a lot of time to go over a lot of news to talk about today. So we're probably going to have about an hour long stream. So I hope you guys will tune in, listen, and enjoy. And of course, feel free to comment here in the live chat on the side in the live chat bar. If you do that, you will get a shout out on my YouTube channel. So there's a plus for doing that. And if you don't quite make it to the stream, that's okay. You can always go into the channel, go to live, the tab live, and you can rewatch all the Nomadic newses, all the Let Me Talk to You podcast episodes, all the random freaking live streams that we've done on this channel, and even my interview with a former Senate candidate. So, yeah, let's get this show underway, shall we? Let's get it underway. Guys, today is Tuesday, the 11th for this show, and it is Veterans Day. So, guys, make sure you guys thank a veteran today. Thank a veteran. The merch saying thank a veteran. Thank them for their service to this great country because it is Veterans Day. So that is the first thing I have to announce today. The second thing that I wanted to announce today is that the weather. The second thing I wanted to announce was the weather report. Weather report so far today has shown early on in the morning period it was pretty sunny, partly cloudy conditions, and it has since begun to get cold and rainy in the local area. The next part of the weather is that there's a high surf advisory today. So if you guys are going near the water, make sure you guys go with caution because there's high surf and multiple beach parks have been closed by the county. In other news, we have some news coming out on the sports side. It is some news for the Dallas Cowboys. This week is our bye week. If you haven't been watching the Dallas Cowboys football recently, the defense has been doing pretty bad. The offense has been decent. The offense has been pretty solid so far. Dak Prescott has been having a very good year. But the defense has been struggling since we traded Micah Parsons away, and that really did hurt the team, really did shoot the team in the foot. So, unfortunately, defense has been near bottom of the league, 31st out of 32 teams. But we do have some good news because this is our bye week, and our next game is luckily against the Raiders, who aren't a very good team. The only player I'm really worried about against the Raiders is Max Crosby because he can be a game-wrecking defensive end. Hopefully we can double team him, neutralize him. But it is bye week, and that means that a lot of players are getting healthy, and that means that help is on the way. What do I mean by that? Well, for starters, Jerry Jones made some moves before the NFL trade deadline, and these were big moves. The first thing that he covered was linebacker. He only traded a 7th-round pick to get a very serviceable linebacker from Cincinnati, and Logan Wilson. So we'll probably see him playing up against the Raiders in our next game. The next player that was even bigger than Logan Wilson that we will be getting added to this team is another defensive tackle. Not that we necessarily needed more strength at the defensive tackle position. We actually need more help at defensive end. But it is good that we have a top 5 player now at defensive tackle that can help out Kenny Clark and can help Osa Odigizua with his development. He is already a good player, Odigizua, but developing behind a top 5 defensive tackle in the league will definitely be beneficial for his career. And if somebody goes down on the D line, I'm sure Osa Odigizua will be more than happy to fill that spot and play as a backup. So here's the player that we got. And we traded a 2027 first round pick for, along with one of our backup defensive tackles who we drafted way too high in the draft, Mozzie Smith. Our new defensive tackle is Quinnen Williams, bro. Quinnen Williams, one of the greatest defensive tackles in the league. Imagine how tough this D-line is going to be now with Dante Fowler Jr., Quinnen Williams, Kenny Clark. Maybe we switch in Osa Odigizua here and there, because, Osa Odigizua is really good too. And then you throw Sam Williams. Maybe you switch out for James Houston the fourth, and from time to time Donovan Ezaraku to get him some reps in too. We'll see how that goes. But looks like some help is on the way. We also have a player coming off of injury who, in the past 2 years when he wasn't hurt, has been an absolute game wrecker, and hopefully he gets back up to how he was last year and the year prior. DeMarvion Overshown, our off-ball linebacker, is going to be coming back for the game against the Raiders as well. And we have our draft pick, Siobhan Rebel Jr., going to make his NFL debut against the Las Vegas Raiders as well. So stay tuned for that game. Cowboys versus Raiders. Going to be an exciting one. In WWE news, John Cena is nearing his retirement. John Cena is going to be retiring very soon. And we only have so long with him. He is scheduled to have his final match on December 13th, 2025. And it's pretty interesting because John Cena also just won a title, defeating Dominic Mysterio to become a Grand Slam champion. He is now the Intercontinental Champion of the world. So John Cena is Intercontinental Champion. He'll be retiring literally next month. And there's going to be a tournament as well. And a few guys are involved in that tournament. One of those names is the megastar LA Knight, who will be involved in that tournament. There's a few other guys as well who are going to be competing in that tournament, including The Miz, among many other wrestlers. Some rumors saying that Dolph Ziggler could be involved in that tournament as well. Really this last few run with John Cena, with Jey Uso, and with all these guys, Jey Uso, Cody Rhodes, Dominic Mysterio, R-Truth, it's been kind of all over the place. But it's nice to see John Cena, I guess, getting a last farewell. Rexus Prime is in the chat. He says hello. Hello, Rexus Prime. How are you doing? But yeah, anyways, John Cena will be retiring next month. There's going to be a tournament for his Intercontinental Championship. And I don't know about you, but I got a feeling that the megastar, LA Knight, is going to win this tournament. And probably be the last guy to beat John Cena. So we'll see how it goes. Who knows? Sometimes WWE makes really stupid booking decisions. So we'll see if they finally decide to push LA Knight or not. Or if they just decide to do something stupid like, I don't know, give it to The Miz or Dolph Ziggler or something. We'll see. We'll see. Could be really interesting though. Yeah. What else did I have scheduled on here? Rexus Prime says, I'm doing just well. Just getting myself very well liked by the far RW space. I know what far RW is. Rexus, what is far RW? Is that short for something? Oh, here we go. Far right wing. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I forgot you were going. You said that you're going all the way with the far right stuff, man. So, I mean, you do you, bro. But I mean, you being a monarchist, me being a libertarian, we're on opposing ends of the spectrum if it's monarchy and libertarianism, as far as I've looked into it. The other big piece of news that I wanted to announce for the sports part of this podcast is Marshawn Nealon, our former backup defensive end on the Dallas Cowboys, has unfortunately passed due to a suicide. So, guys, if you're having problems with mental health, I'm being serious here. If you're having problems with mental health, talk to somebody. Go get some help. You don't have to remove yourself from this existence. So please get help. Don't die. There's people in your life who really do care about you. We miss you, Marshawn Nealon. Rest in peace. And thoughts and condolences are with his family and loved ones. He was a really good perspective piece for this team, working in development, and sadly, his passing has really left a gap as well on the depth chart for this entire team. And I'm sure it leaves a gap in the hearts and souls of those who he cared about. as well. So rest in peace, Marshawn Nealon. Rest easy. Yeah. So that's pretty much all I have for the sports report part of this. The next, I'm going to move into politics. So, first of all, the big news is we had the special elections that had just happened this last week. Um, and as pretty much I had sort of expected things going, is the Democrats were going to get big gains because of the foolishness of the Republican Party. I mean, this really could have all been prevented. Guys, I'm gonna rant a little bit. This could have all been prevented. The Democrats did not have to win. Rex Prime says, I can speak. One of the things I hate about being far RW is that it's very isolating and lonely. I thankfully have coping mechanisms, but yeah, it's lonely. I mean, I'd imagine it. I mean, it sucks, but that's the price that you get for what? Being chronically online and, you know, doom scrolling and whatnot. Like that's what happens when you doom scroll. Rexus, if you need help, like you can always talk to me, buddy. You don't have to, you know, just be a doomer and all that. I know you like the aesthetic of like, you know, metal and all that stuff and edginess. And that's all good and all. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I love dark humor. I like metal too. But I mean, if you're lonely, if you need like somebody to talk to, you can just talk to me, man. Like I'm here for you, bro. But yeah, back to the subject at hand. We didn't have to lose this. If the Republicans just actually listened to their constituency and kept their promises. But no. Instead, they decided to fuck it all up, didn't they? Them and their pride and their ego. They just had to be the man. And now look what happened. Now the Democrats have swept the 2025 special elections and are currently projected at this pace to probably lose the midterms as well. I predict that the Republicans will lose the Senate and narrowly hold on to the House by the skim of their whiskers, but will somehow manage to hold on to the House. But I predict that's my prediction. And I predict that the Republicans will lose the Senate in 2026. It's it's a big change, a lot of changes. So here's some of the details. A couple of Democrats won in special elections in Virginia and New Jersey. The two governorships flipped, so Glenn Youngkin retired. He appointed a very unpopular person to fill his shoes, and that lady lost the debate and ended up losing to the Democrat in the actual election. And similar thing in New Jersey, Democrats just straight up won the state at the governorship. Democrats also won even with a bad candidate in Virginia. They won with Zay Jones, who By the way, Zay Jones literally advocated for like killing political opposition. So, yeah, yikes. Not exactly a good look, but they won anyways because people are so fed up with the current administration that they were like, well, fuck it. I guess we'll vote for the Democrats. And, they go back and forth and back and forth. Nothing ever happens. The Democrats, they give into some like culture war politics, and they pretend that they're gonna do something special and magnificent, and then they just end up going back to the same old bullshit neoliberal policy. Like I said, nah, it's not the doom scrolling. Some people know about my paranoia. Thankfully, I'm not as paranoid as I used to be. Writing is helping me, even though it can get pretty dark. Well, at least you have an outlet, man. So I'm proud of you for at least, you know, finding an outlet and coping with stuff. But still, if you need help, I'm here, buddy. But I think with the special elections as well, one of the biggest, most well-known things that happened was the New York mayor's race. And what happened was it was a three-way. So we had the first guy was Andrew Cuomo, who's an establishment Democrat, backed by the establishment, backed by the billionaires, the donor class, the Israel lobby, what have you, etc., etc., right? So you had Andrew Cuomo, who's been running New York to shit as a politician for decades now. And he was very unpopular. He lost the primary to Zoran Mamdani. Zoran Mamdani, the Muslim socialist or democratic socialist candidate that kind of ran as like a populist left person, promising to give people free stuff, free buses, uh, lower prices at supermarkets, rent control. Pretty much was the platform that he ran on. And, I mean, you have to give it to him. He's kind of a charming guy. He has a little bit of charisma that can carry you a long way. He had a social media savvy team, and he pretty much ended up winning. Now, he beat Andrew Cuomo in the primary, and Andrew Cuomo had to drop out. But he decided to run as a quote unquote independent, even though not a single independent thought has ran through the mind of Andrew Cuomo in forever. I don't even think he has independent thoughts. I think he just does whatever his donors tell him to say. So he's not really an independent. He was a Democrat posing as an independent, and he lost the election again very badly, even worse than he lost in the primary. And he lost even worse because there was this other third guy. This other third guy is kind of a funny guy. He's like wears a red beret. He runs around. He's actually a nice guy. He feeds homeless people. And back in like the 80s and 90s, he had this gang that would go around with their red berets and like sit on the trains and prevent stuff from getting out of hand. Prevent like homeless people from destroying stuff and all that. And this guy's name is Curtis Sliwa. And Curtis Sliwa, I mean, he seems like an all right dude. He seemed to take losing the election well, um, and just wish Zoran Mamdani the best, even though he doesn't agree with his policy. So at the end of the day, Zoran Mamdani is now the mayor of New York, and he hasn't even taken office yet. And guess what? People are already pissed. Like, it's pretty funny. It's like on the right wing, they're all saying, oh, he's a socialist. He's gonna destroy the entire city. It's not gonna work. It's never gonna happen in a million years. He's gonna turn it into a Islamist communist dictatorship, right? And then on the left, well, the actual left. On the actual left, you have like socialists, democratic socialists, some tankies are saying, yeah, Zoran Mamdani, he's going to symbolize all my ideas. We're going to put all our eggs in this basket and we're going all the way. We won. So they're happy because they won. And then you have the neoliberal establishment Democrats who are fleeing the state as we speak, saying that oh well, he's gonna destroy my businesses because he's gonna make me, bring down the cost of rent and my apartments, and he's going to make the buses free. And I'm like, I mean, the buses free is kind of like a doable thing. Like, I live in a state where they have free buses. It works fine. You just have to set up rules in place that make it so that the bus driver and whatnot is in control of the situation. And when you do that, you kind of get rid of a lot of the riffraff, and you just have a free bus that, maybe from time to time doesn't run exactly on schedule, but it works, I guess. It's serviceable. It does the job. So it's not impossible to have free buses. This isn't some radical, lofty idea for free buses. There are other things I do disagree with. I disagree with state run grocery stores. I don't think that that's going to necessarily be effective. I feel like all that will do was make it so that at non state run grocery stores that the prices will go up, and at the state run grocery store, I mean, you're probably going to be feeding a lot of people a lot of crap, really. Like a lot of food that's just like subpar, government cheese, government bread. Eh, you know, it's good. I mean, it's good for the people who need it, but it's really not going to be helping everybody else in the state who doesn't have the ability to access that state run grocery store or whatever, because, well, everybody else is shopping at Walmart and Target and Costco, and all the prices are going to go up. So everywhere else in the state it's going to go up. New York City, and anything that's not a state run grocery store is probably going to go up as well, just because of how supply and demand works. And at the state run grocery store, you might be able to get the prices low, but really, people who want to have choice in the market aren't going to shop at those state run grocery stores and be like, well, that's the store for the poor people. I don't want to go there. I don't want to eat the government cheese and the government bread. So where do they shop? They shop at Walmart, and then they notice, oh shit, our prices are up. And then what are you next? The next thing you know, well, you got all these people who may not necessarily need all this stuff taking food from the homeless people who rely on the state-run grocery store. So the whole concept of like a state-run grocery store, it just seems really stupid, and I feel like that's one of the main critiques that I have of his platform. Now, a lot of people will say, "Oh, you're libertarian, so you must be against Zoran Mamdani because he's socialist. You must be completely against him." But I said this. I mean, Larry Sharpe, wished him luck. Larry Sharpe is a libertarian in New York. He's running for governor in 2026. Larry Sharpe, he didn't endorse him, but he wished him luck, and he's talked to him, and him and Mamdani are friends. So, and Larry Sharpe said that he thinks Mamdani is a true believer. I definitely see, a sense of genuineness of a person who really believes what he believes, and I hope he does well. I don't think you can get worse than decades of neoliberal establishment bullshit that's been going on in New York. At least we're trying something different here. And if it doesn't work, I can laugh and say, ha ha, I told you so. Now let's try libertarianism. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, maybe some of it will work out, and probably a lot of it won't. And probably a lot of it will be superseded by Kathy Hochul, the current governor of New York. And that's just how politics is at this point. It's, you know, you got to play the game if you want to beat the game. So we'll see how it goes there. Let me know what you guys think of Zoran Mamdani in the comments below. I'm not his biggest hater. I'm just keeping it real with you. I don't agree with his policies, but I do support him in one key area. I do support him in one key area, and that's on Israel. I do not like the Israelis at this point. The Israelis have been doing a lot of bullshit, people, and it's it's crazy at this point. It's been a while since we've done Nomadic News, so we're checking back into the Israel situation. If you don't know what happened, Donald Trump announced a ceasefire not too long ago. It was on the anniversary of October 7th. Donald Trump had this ceasefire planned out that was, I will give Donald Trump credit for this one. At least he tried to do something. At least he tried to stop the violence. He's at least trying to end some wars. And, try as he might, the people who are fighting the wars are not cooperating. They're not listening. They're not heeding the message. So what we have continued wars. And of course, as expected by most of us who have seen what Israel has done the last two times they had ceasefire under Biden, and when Trump was trying to get a ceasefire as well, right? The last couple of times they had ceasefires, what did they do? They violated the ceasefire. They violated it. Then they blamed Hamas. Said there was a Hamas there. It's like every single time there's a fucking Hamas. They've leveled 95% of Gaza, probably more now, probably more closer to like 98, 99% of Gaza now. They've leveled every building flat. Was there a Hamas inside of every single building? I don't fucking think so. I don't think so. So, no, I'm not buying this whole, there was a Hamas, they're hiding behind the children, a Hamas, a Hamas. And like anytime there's a journalist or something in Gaza who gets gunned down, oh, they were Hamas. And then we find out, no, they were just working for Al Jazeera, which isn't even, they're not even a Palestinian-based organization. They're a Qatari-based organization, and Qatar is one of our allies, and Qatar is like relatively neutral on Palestine, basically. So what the fuck? But yeah, Israel violated the ceasefire again. They killed 100 people in a 2-week period, civilians, and it just really shouldn't surprise people at this point. Rexus Prime says there's one group worse than them, despite the fact that they have the same religious beliefs as them. It's the financiers. To paraphrase Napoleon, the banker is more ruthless than the general. Well, you may be right about that, Rexus Prime. The financiers are responsible for this situation. The Fed is in on it. The central banking system is in on it. So, but where do they all lead you back to? They all lead you back to Israel. You look up who these financiers are. You look up who owns the neocons. You look up who owns the military-industrial complex. You look up who owns these massive banks, like Goldman Sachs, and who owns BlackRock, who owns Vanguard and State Street, and it's all Israelis. Now, that's not to say that every single person in Israel is an evil human being. And that's not to say that every single, it's definitely not every single Jew. For sure, it's not, because I've met Jews that are against Israel. There are plenty of Jews who are protesting Bibi Netanyahu. Look at all these ultra-Orthodox Jews that are protesting Bibi Netanyahu. I mean, just look at guys like Dave Smith, Jeffrey Sachs, Norman Finkelstein. Let me tell you guys something. You know who told me that the Israelis were corrupt and that we shouldn't be involved in Middle Eastern wars, and we're involved in Middle Eastern wars because of Israeli policy? You know who told me that? It was two Jewish friends of mine. It was two Jewish friends of mine who told me about the crimes of Israel, who told me all about how Israel wants us involved in wars in the Middle East, and that Israel lied to us about WMDs in Iraq. By the way, one of them was an Iraqi war veteran, by the way. Went all around the entire Middle East, is a Jew himself, and served 20 years in the United States Army as a military combat journalist. So that's my source. Those are my sources. If you guys want to compare sources, if the Zionists want to come inside my comment sections and compare sources, that's the source that I'm gonna go to trust on this issue. I feel like that's a pretty good source. The other friend of mine was a friend of mine on the with MAHA, Make America Healthy Again movement. Another Jew from New York, and she was telling me that Bibi Netanyahu is a far-right extremist. She told me Bibi Netanyahu and the Likud party are far-right Zionist extremists who are intent on wiping out the Palestinians. So I'm getting told by Jews, by Jewish people. Not to mention, I watch the podcasts of Dave Smith. I've listened to Norman Finkelstein on Piers Morgan. I've listened to podcasts done by Jeffrey Sachs. Podcasts done by Jeffrey Sachs on Jimmy Dore Show. These guys are prominent Jews who are against Israel. And then again, going back, you have the ultra-Orthodox Jews that are protesting against Bibi Netanyahu and their war crimes, stating that it is against the Torah what the Zionists are attempting to do right here. And yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree with them. I agree with them. It's very sad. It's very sad that people in this day and age think that it's okay to murder and lie and steal and cheat to get their way, when instead they should be trying to seek some form of peace. Rexus Prime said, "God, I hate YouTube censoring me. I'll send you links in DMs. And I did open your eyes on the situation. I'm partial Jewish of descent." Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. You're right, Rexus. You did. And you are ethnically Jewish. You're right. Despite now being a pagan. But yeah, you did open my eyes as well. So 3 Jews right here that I personally know. My 3 Jewish friends. One of them's a combat vet. One of them is with Maha movement. And one of them's right here in the comment section talking to us. So, and is not a Zionist. So, If you think Zionism is equivalent to Jewish people, well, congratulations. You've just played yourself because you couldn't be more wrong. And people might be wondering, "Oh, why are you getting so heated about this? What's it to you?" Um, well, look, I'm getting on this as well, not just because I want to tell you guys the news, not just because I want to expose the truth to you, but because I've been having problems again. I've been having problems with this guy on YouTube. His name is Dexter fucking Midnight, and he's been having problems with me. He's been going into my comment section, calling me a fearmonger, saying that I'm a conspiracy theorist. He's been calling me an anti-Semite and all this and a box of chocolates. And I want to tell him that, look, I was willing to have an honest discussion for you. I gave him the opportunity to, instead of making AI slop content from AI clanker bots, because that's what he does. He makes AI slop. He makes AI slop content on his gay ass little YouTube channel. And I can say gay ass YouTube channel all I fucking want. I don't give a fuck if you try to cancel me. This guy is a fucking meddling Zionist trying to tell me that I'm an anti-Semite, that I don't like Jewish people, and that I should just go to hell because I called him out, because I wanted to have a debate with him. And I gave him the opportunity to have a civil debate. And what did he do? What did he do? He no-showed like No-Show Jones, Skip. He no-showed like No-Show Jones because he's a coward. And if he can't get on this podcast and not make AI slop content, if he doesn't want to man the fuck up, then I'm not going to talk to him. I'm not going to have it. But don't you dare, Dexter Midnight, if you're watching this podcast, don't you dare. Don't you dare accuse me of being an anti-Semitic, because I love my Jewish brothers and sisters. I love my Jewish brothers and sisters. I would never wish harm on them. And in fact, I'd consider myself quite moderate on the issue. You want to see somebody who's extreme? Go talk to Nick Fuentes. I know both me and you don't like him. And I'm not going to sit here and villainize Nick Fuentes. I feel like he's a guy who asks a lot of very good questions, but at the end of the day has no answers. That's my opinion on Nick Fuentes, because his answer is fascism. His answer to the problem in Israel Palestine is to do what Mr. H Mustache Man from World War II did. And that I cannot agree with because of reasons that I've given prior. Rexus says, I'm more of a weirdo than you. I believe there's a possibility that cryptids might exist. Yeah, I'm very fringe, and I have some oddly very rational questions on their existence. I mean, we can get into cryptids and like Anunnaki and Nephilim and all that interesting shit, and like Freemasonry and like paganism and religion and all that shit on a different podcast, Rexus. So we'll talk about that another time. But if you want to get onto a podcast with me in the future, I mean, I'd be glad to do a religion podcast with you, because we could probably talk for an hour, hour and a half about that for sure. But yeah, I'll talk to you about that at another time. But anyways, where was I? Anyways, I'm not that extreme. I'm really not. I'm not that extreme on this issue. I do think that we shouldn't be funding Israel anymore. I don't think we should be funding any country for that matter. I don't think we should be funding Ukraine either. I don't think we should be funding China. I don't think we should be funding Iran. I don't think we should be funding Syria or Afghanistan or Russia or even fucking Like, even fucking South Africa. I don't think we should be funding. I don't even think we should be funding Argentina, and they technically have a libertarian for president. I don't think we should be giving them $40 billion, if you ask me, Skip. So it's not like I'm just picking specifically on Israel. No, I'm a libertarian. I want my tax dollars to go to my community and help starving homeless people in the street. We have starving homeless people in the street, Skip. We have starving homeless people in the street. We have rent that's too damn high. We have broken infrastructure. We have sky high housing market prices. We have sky high medical costs. And what can all our politicians think to do? All our fucking politicians, almost all of them, about 90% of them, all they can do is say, another $1 billion to Israel. I am so fucking fed up with this selling out our country to appease a nation that is actively committing a genocide. And if you don't think it's a genocide, then I'm sorry. But at what point is a genocide a genocide? They have killed upwards of 100,000 civilians, most estimates now, because so many bodies are buried in rubble. Because over 95% of Gaza is flattened, and because they don't have an actual independent investigation into the region that isn't done by Israel or the Gaza Health Ministry. The estimates by the United Nations now are almost 600,000 dead. He thinks you're extreme. Some of my thoughts and ideas can be pretty extreme and wild. I know. I know. If he wants extreme, he should talk to you. If he wants extreme, he should talk to you. I'm not that extreme. I'm not. I just don't like my tax dollars being spent on forever war, especially when there's war crimes involved. Actual war crimes. Actual war crimes, Skip. Because all these politicians, all they care about is appealing to their donors. And you know who their biggest donor is? It's AIPAC. AIPAC. That's AIPAC. Maybe that's why you like AI so much, Dexter. Because it's in the name AIPAC. And maybe you're getting paid for by AIPAC. Maybe you're getting $7K a post, like all these other influencers out there. Like your hero, Ben Shapoopoo. Or maybe Officer Tatum. Maybe you watch that guy still. Maybe you watch Officer Tatum. Because, I don't know, man. Maybe they paid you your shekels or something. But let's look at this. I'm going to go to track AIPAC. AIPAC tracker for our Congress. How many of our congressmen are actually bought and paid for by AIPAC? Do you know how many? Do you know how many? I've got the numbers right here. Right here. I've got them. $329 people in our Congress are bought and paid for by AIPAC. That's just the House of Representatives. That's not mentioning how many in the Senate. 329 representatives are AIPAC representatives. 130 Dems, 199 Republicans. That is why we refer to them as the Uni Party. And yeah, he thinks you're extreme. He thinks you're extreme. He thinks I'm extreme. He thinks I'm extreme because I dare ask questions as to why on earth is a foreign lobbyist group having so much influence over people who are supposed to represent their district and state? I feel like that's a normal question to ask. When you have a whole ass APAC tracker. I don't know. I don't know. But I'm not even that extreme. Do you guys see me calling for the extermination of the Jewish state in the Middle East? No. I've made jokes. There's a difference between. You guys ever heard of dark humor? You guys know what dark humor is? I make dark humor jokes all the time. My memes. I make jokes all the time. I made a joke about 9/11 in Palestine like 2 years ago because they shot a missile at a tower, and that was back when I was under the influence of Israeli propaganda. Sure, but it was still a joke, and I didn't take it down because it was still low key funny. Um, Especially given the situation that it was in at the time. And then to make up for it, I made a joke about Zionists, and I made another joke about with the it was an I show speed meme that I posted a while ago. It was the I show speed meme, the bye bye Israel meme. It was a joke. It wasn't an actual call for violence. It was a meme. It was dark humor. You guys got to understand the difference between the two. So yeah, I apologize if that offended anybody, although I shouldn't. But it's a joke. Get it? You know, laugh. And if you don't laugh, then I'm sorry. You don't have a sense of humor. I'm sorry, but if we can make jokes about 9/11, if we can make jokes about fucking Epstein, I feel like Israel Gaza isn't exactly out of the question either. If we can make jokes about Pearl Harbor, Israel Palestine shouldn't be out of the question. I mean, it's just dark humor. So I don't get it, but I'm really not extreme. If you listen to my podcasts, if you watch my videos, you guys would know that I'm for like a two-state solution to this, as lofty as it seems now, because the Israelis don't want to work with anybody, and they've proven this again and again. They violate the ceasefire. They blame Hamas. They bombed our ally Qatar to break up peace negotiations, by the way, guys. They bombed our ally Qatar to break up peace negotiations. The Hamases that they were getting mad at. It's Hamas. It's Hamas. It's Hamas. It was a Hamas. Because that's all they know how to say. Every time you dare say, "Oh, they committed a war crime," it was a Hamas. Every time. Every time. So they said it was a Hamas when they bombed Qatar. Yeah, it was a Hamas. It was a people from Hamas going to negotiate a ceasefire deal. And what did the Israelis do? They bombed the negotiators. They bombed the negotiating party. They bombed a sovereign country and allies of ours, and the president did nothing. Do you know why the president did nothing? Because the president has taken money from APAC. The president has taken upwards of $230 million from APAC. And that's the conservative number, by the way. And that's not even counting what he got the first time. Because he's ran for president like 3 times. And every time APAC donated to him. So he got more money from APAC this time. He says, here we go. Rex Prime says, I say we leave and let them tear at one another and focus out on our problems. Yeah, the problem with that, if we decide to leave them, and I do agree, yeah, we should leave them, not give them any more money, is that what's Israel just going to do? they're just going to colonize Gaza and the West Bank, and they're not going to care. The UN has been neutered. They have no ability to administer any justice whatsoever. Even if Netanyahu lands in a UN country, they let him speak on stage. They let him speak on stage, and all that happened was some people from the parliament walked out on the speech. They didn't arrest him. They didn't question him. They didn't do anything. They let him speak. They let him spread propaganda. So, yeah, I just don't. I feel like what we really need to do is actually administer justice, is actually prosecute Netanyahu. But you know what happened instead? Instead, the fucking president, Donald Trump, decides to go and he says, "Hey, Mr. President, why don't you go ahead and give the Prime Minister Netanyahu a pardon? Why don't you pardon him? Pardon the war criminal," he says. Pardon him. He should be in Guantanamo Bay for the rest of his life. He should be some fucking MS-13 member's little sex doll because of how vile Netanyahu is. But you know what? That's not going to happen because we live in a sick and twisted dark reality right now where the Zionists have gone and infested their propaganda into every little niche fester everything. And that is why people are so easily manipulated, and it's so sad to see. And it and again, I'm not even coming from an extremist position. Like, I'm not an extremist. I really want there to be a lasting peace in Gaza. There's a quote. There's a quote that I was reading in this great book by the great monk Thich Nhat Hanh, and he was talking about Israel and Palestine long before October 7th. That's how long this war has gone on for. He has been a really a voice for peace around the world. And he says that the only way for there to be peace is for the Israelis to be able to provide a means that the Palestinians are able to be safe. And in return, through the principle of karma, that peace should be returned. Instead, because both of these places are run by radical Abrahamic faith loving leaders, radical leaders of the Abrahamic faith, because they're run by radicals who completely miss the teachings of their religions entirely, they are going by eye for an eye. Old time Abrahamic law. They're going by eye for an eye. And you know what they say? You know what Gandhi said? He said, if you go by eye for an eye, we will have a world of blind people. So it's really a you give what you get. Rexus Prime says, or we could do a South Africa style apartheid. They do it in Jerusalem. It should be for all over the place, and apartheid prevent the chaos in Cape Town back then. Is it perfect? No. That's basically what we already have in Gaza, Rexus, is an apartheid. Like, I know I've heard some journalists talking that were on the ground that are in the West Bank that is completely militarized that are saying, "Oh, you can't even leave the West Bank and go to worship at the Holy Rock in Jerusalem. You can't even go there. You can't even go there." And unless you have some sort of permit, and that is very sad. So it's basically an apartheid system. Um, and then Gaza is the what they call the open air prison, where they quote unquote cut the grass, which is when they bomb the buildings, and it's cruel. It's cruel. So no, unless this extremist government is completely ousted from power in Israel, and from what I'm hearing, unfortunately, as much as there are people who are opposed to the war all over the world, even in Israel, you're looking at most likely in Israel that they will be happy with Netanyahu, because the main reason why the Jews were so angry at Netanyahu in the first place in Israel is because they wanted the hostages back. Well, now they have all the hostages back. Every single living hostage and multiple dead bodies have been returned by Hamas, which was part of the means for the ceasefire. The next part of the means is supposed to be demilitarization. And this is just basically the pathway to colonizing the Gaza Strip and eventually the West Bank. And it's a Jared Kushner based plan. And what they're going to do is they're going to turn Gaza into a Riviera for the ultra wealthy elitists. So they're going to turn it into Trump Gaza. They're going to build a golden statue of Donald Trump and Bibi Netanyahu, and it is going to be a place for all of them to live out their wildest fantasies. Donald Trump will be able to play golf all day he wants in Israel. Um, Elon Musk will have his Tesla area over there as well. Jared Kushner will be able to buy out a whole bunch of property. It will be a massive real estate deal. And they're going to push out all the Gazans. All of the Gazans. This isn't a conspiracy. It's called the Greater Israel Project. You can look it up. Bibi Netanyahu admitted to this on national television in Israel. Bibi Netanyahu also went in front of his own Likud party in parliament and showed them a map of the Greater Israel Project, and it is expansion into the West Bank, into Gaza, eventually into Syria, up to Damascus, and into the Sinai Peninsula. So, really, Israel right now is trying to empire build, essentially. And there's a lot of reasons why. There's real estate, there's natural gas, there's trade routes, there's ports, there's oil, there's all these major reasons that they do so. But they also want to combat the hegemony of Iran. They want to be homogenous in the region as the homogenous world power. That's why they are butting heads with Iran. That's why they want us to go to war with Iran. And Iran, for a while, has tried to straddle the line, saying, "Hey, we have the ability to make nukes. We do not have the nukes. We're following the law. We're using our nuclear power for energy." And you could see at their nuclear sites, it is nuclear powered energy. They have the capability, they do probably most likely carry a dirty bomb of some sort, or they have the capability to make a dirty bomb. But are they going to use that? Probably not, unless it's a last case scenario. However, Israel struck first. Israel struck Iran first and roped us into it. They roped us into it. And Colonel Douglas McGregor says that they're going to try to do it again. Colonel Douglas McGregor is saying that the United States is shipping a bunch of supplies and equipments to rearm Israel. The reason they had this ceasefire in the first place is because all sides pretty much ran out of ammunition. And once Israel gets that ammunition again, they're going to wait until an ample time to strike, and they will strike again. They will likely attack Iran again and try to rope us into another war. So unless Donald Trump can work out some sort of miracle and somehow just denies the wishes of his donors and decides to trust his gut for once in his goddamn life again, then maybe we somehow manage to squeeze out of it and not go to war with Iran. But if things go the way that Colonel Douglas McGregor is describing, and again, this is a colonel with an illustrious military career that goes all the way back to the Gulf War and has a lot of experience in foreign policy, and he's a very intelligent man. He runs a great podcast. Uh, if everything is going how Colonel Douglas McGregor and Jeffrey Sachs are explaining this, it's not looking good for us who are pro peace, unfortunately. Rixus Prime says, I'm referring to South African apartheid. It prevented bloodshed by peaceful means for a long time until the communist revolution happened there. Is it perfect? No, but it's is a solution. Then again, despite the problems of the Afrikaners, they cared about not causing bloodshed. Different people, different mindset. I mean, Rexus, I just disagree with you. I don't support any form of apartheid, man. Um, Apartheid in South Africa was wrong. There was plenty of Afrikaners, plenty of Americans, and plenty of Jews who were against apartheid. I have great respect for Nelson Mandela, and it's very sad to see what they're doing over there. That there is now these communist factions over in South Africa that are killing white farmers, and there needs to be discussion about how to best handle that. Perhaps going to the new government of South Africa and placing some sort of sanctions on them with the US would probably be the best choice for that situation. I don't think that apartheid in Gaza, which already is happening right now, is the solution. I wouldn't call it a solution, man. But you're welcome to disagree with me. But yeah, I've been on this for a while now. The Zionists right now are losing the propaganda war because we have great people. We have people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens who are waking up to the truth right now, telling people the truth, changing minds, changing thoughts, changing ways, and it's causing a sort of flip in consciousness. And it's putting the Zionists like Ben Shapupu and Officer Tatum and fucking Megyn Kelly and Mark Levin and these neocons. It's putting them on their back heels because they know they're losing the narrative. That's why Bibi Netanyahu says he has to control social media. He has to buy X. He has to buy TikTok. He has to buy, uh, all these social media sites. He has to use AI slop and AI content like Dexter Midnight does to spread his propaganda because he doesn't have any other way to combat the truth that's being let out by these truth-seeking people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. And granted, I might not agree with everything Tucker Carlson says, but I do feel very happy that he has turned a new leaf on this issue. And I think it is in line with his Christian views. If you're Christian and you're watching this podcast right now, if you're a Christian and you still support Israel Gaza, I don't know how you can do it. They've bombed Christian churches in Gaza and the West Bank. They bombed the third oldest Orthodox Christian church in Gaza. They killed children and nuns. The Orthodox Christians are very upset with what the Israelis are doing, but nobody talks about it because it's censored by the media. It's censored by the media. There's another guy who I was listening to. He's a former special forces guy who had volunteered to go into Gaza to feed the Palestinians. And what he saw there, when he came back, he had to resign his position because he couldn't handle what was going on. It was more disgusting than anything he's ever seen in his life. And this is coming from a war veteran of the Iraqi and Afghanistan wars. And he was disgusted. He was disgusted that they purposely set them up for failure by not having enough areas to give people food, by making the Palestinians have to cross a war zone with active landmines all the way through the middle of it, while being shot at with machine gun fire and being hit with shrapnel and stun grenades as they crossed into these encampments. And they didn't even give them water, he said. They didn't even give them water. And it was disgusting. But the most disgusting thing that this military veteran had said, that he had told the journalists that were interviewing him, was that he went into pretty much the mission control room, looking at cameras over the sites where they're administering these aid. And again, they aren't even giving these Palestinians water. They're in the middle of a desert. They don't have fresh water. Their water table has been cracked from all the bombs that have been dropped on Gaza. Any water sources, catchment tanks, all the stuff that had been previously given to them from the generosity of other nations had been destroyed and wiped out in the bombings that have occurred over the past 3 years. So these people don't have water. They'd always ask for water. They don't get water. All they get is some rice and some beans, and they don't even have water to cook any of this stuff. So they have to use salt water from the ocean. It's disgusting. But he was in the mission control room, and he saw that there was children that were being pressed up against the fence and were lifted out of the area by one of the adult Palestinians. It was just 2 kids, toddlers, 5-year-olds, and they were sitting on top of a wall. And the Israeli commander said, "That is not secure. That is not secure. Get them down from there. Get them down from there," in English. And he tried to tell them to relax, and that they're just kids. It's fine. You don't have to do anything. They will go down when the line moves. And luckily, these kids had eventually walked away from the wall as they were arguing over this situation. But at the end of the day, this Israeli commander decided to call up his snipers to train on that position. And if those kids had stayed there, I'm sure what would have happened is what happens to a lot of these journalists and children in Gaza and all these other cases that aren't revealed to the mainstream media. And it's brutal, and it's vicious, and it's a war crime, and it's inhumane. It's inhumane. It's wrong. And if you're a Christian and you support that, then you have no right to call yourself a Christian. You don't follow Jesus if you support that. I'm sorry. I don't think Jesus would support shooting people, innocent people, just because of a religious disagreement. Because these people, they're viewed as, by a lot of these Zionists, as less than. It's disgusting. It's terrible. It's terrible. But yeah, if you're a Christian, I think the narrative for Christians, especially with people like Tucker Carlson now in the media, is definitely shifting. It's shifting from the status quo of pro-Israel to, let's start asking some questions. And I'm all for it. Let's start asking questions. Let's start telling people these stories that are coming out of Gaza. Let's start revealing the truth to people. And if you're going to follow Christ, then what you should do is actually follow Christ, actually follow his teachings of peace, of love, of compassion, of forgiveness. Don't follow the old law of eye for an eye. Don't follow the old ways from the Old Testament of wiping out entire populaces and using God as a justification for that. No, you should follow what your Savior says to do in the New Testament, in the New Covenant, and that it's not a Jew or Gentile thing, but rather you get saved through your salvation, through your Savior, and through following the words of your Savior. That's what I would say if you are a Christian. And if you are a conservative Christian and you watch Fox News, here's another story for you. I was watching Fox Phoenix a while back, and I believe I've told this story on this channel before, but it was one of the big war crimes that really changed my mind about this whole situation from Israel. And it was about first responders that were going into Gaza, into a village in Gaza, to administer first aid help to the people who were injured and sick and needed medical attention. These were members of the Red Crescent. The Red Crescent isn't Hamas. The Red Crescent isn't a terrorist organization. The Red Crescent really is no different from the Red Cross, other than the fact that the Red Crescent is in Muslim majority countries and the Red Cross is in American majority countries. That is the only difference, really. So these Red Crescent first responders were driving to a nearby village in Gaza to administer aid to the civilian population. Their hazard lights were on. Their sirens were on. The Israelis shot at them anyway, and the dash cam footage proves it. The Israelis tried to then say that their hazard lights and their flashes were not on and that they were snuck up on, when in fact the Israelis had ambushed the convoy. And the dashcam footage shows that their hazards and their sirens and lights were indeed on, and that as they approached, that they were shot at with small arms fire and forced to duck down into the vehicle, and every single Red Crescent member was killed. And then the next day, the IDF decided to try to literally bury the story by bulldozing the vehicles over and dumping everybody into a mass grave. Now, if that isn't genocidal, if that isn't a war crime, I don't know what the fuck is. And this was reported by your favorite news outlet, Fox News. So if even Fox News is forced to admit that Israel has committed a war crime, then you should admit that Israel is absolutely committing war crimes. And that, my friend, is unforgivable. If you still support them after that, after everything we've discussed already at this point, I don't know how you can. I would be completely bewildered if you can still come to you to say, oh, but the Hamas, oh, but 3 years ago, 1,200 people were killed, even though most of them were actually killed because there was a stand down order, and then the Israelis decided to bomb a bunch of cars with Apache helicopters. And why on earth is there a 20-hour wait period and stand down order in a country the size of New Jersey when a bunch of sand monkeys flying in go-karts with hang gliders on top of them and with a Caterpillar tractor and some AK-47s are raiding these Israeli villages? Like, you don't question that? Your hero Charlie Kirk did. Your hero Charlie Kirk questioned that in his final days before he was killed And it just leaves a lot more questions unanswered. It actually leaves a lot more for more conspiracies and more theories and ideas of, well, what happened? What is the real story behind this assassination? Because nobody's buying the chats. Nobody's buying these chats that were determined to be AI. Nobody's buying Kash Patel anymore, who looks like he's coked out of his mind and is lying through his teeth clearly about the Epstein files. Nobody can trust him. Nobody trusts Pam Bondi either. So we definitely don't trust Trump. So what else? What other questions should arise? What else is needed to change your mind? I don't know. I don't know. I feel like that's enough about the Zionists now. I want to talk about how we've essentially been backstabbed by Donald Trump, because it really does feel like that. You know, I feel like when we went into vote that I was trying to make the most informed decision that I possibly could, guys. I really do. I feel like I was trying my very best to make a very informed decision off of really two terrible options. Two terrible options. And look, they convinced me because they were like, we're going to put your boy RFK in. We're going to put Tulsi Gabbard in. Well, I had high hopes at first for Kash Patel. I had high hopes for Dan Bongino. I had high hopes. Like, it's not like I want to not like these guys. You know, I had high hopes for them. What happened? Tulsi Gabbard tells the truth about Iran, and she gets her position and her ability to talk about anything foreign policy wise downsized. We haven't heard from Tulsi Gabbard in fucking months. Seriously. Like, all we heard from her was Russiagate, and that's it. Haven't really heard much from her since. Oh, actually, no, I heard that she tried to look into Epstein, and the FBI blocked her. So that's the last thing she did. The FBI blocked her, even though she supersedes the FBI and the CIA. They blocked her anyways. So there's that. It seems like with Maha that, one, the way they're going about with this food dye stuff, it's not happening fast enough. Food dyes to be banned in 2027 at earliest. 2027. Some in California it'll be 2026 because Gavin Newsom caved to one Maha initiative. Thankfully, it's like probably the one nice thing I can say about Gavin Newsom is, hey, he's actually going to ban Red 40. Nice. That's about it. But no, with Maha, the Red 40 ban is not happening fast enough. And then I'm looking over what's going on at USDA and EPA, and I'm seeing that they're just deregulating everything that's poisoning our environment, toxic-wise. All these Clean Air Act, this Toxic Pollutants Act are about to be revoked, and even the Maha PAC, the Political Action Committee, is opposed to this. And yet Donald Trump wants to do it anyways. It's not Maha. He doesn't care. He just wants to appeal to his oil oligarch friends and make them a bunch of money. You see, Donald Trump right now, he'd rather be working on his ballroom and playing golf and commentating over NFL football games, then he would actually address the elephant in the room, which is Jeffrey Epstein. He backstabbed us on Epstein. He said he was going to release the files. Now he calls it a Democrat hoax. So, yeah, I've basically lost my faith in Trump. I basically lost my faith in Trump. Now, that's not to say the Democrats are exactly off the hook either. I mean, going back to these special elections that happened, the Democrats passed two things, well, actually three big things that I'm overall opposed to. One of them was Zay Jones getting into office. The other two big passes of legislation that I'm not a fan of is in Maine, they passed red flag laws. So that means the government can seize your firearms if they suspect you of being an extremist or they suspect you of being mentally ill. They don't even have to have probable cause. They will just take your guns as a precaution. So I believe that's an infringement on the Second Amendment as a constitutional libertarian. And I think that this is a terrible, terrible law to be passed. And then in California, they have Prop 50, which is basically going to turn the entire state of California, outside maybe a couple of seats in the very rural areas, blue. And yeah, basically what will happen then is independent and conservative voices will be silenced in the state of California. So expect a lot of people to flee to Nevada, Arizona, and Texas and New Mexico, maybe Colorado, Oregon, Idaho, Utah, those surrounding areas from California. More people will be fleeing California to go to those states. So that's pretty much all we've got there as far as the Democrats, too. So really, neither side can be trusted, is what I'm saying. The Democrats are just as authoritarian as the Republicans. Don't let them get you wrong. Right now, they're just playing opposition party with their No Kings protest. They're playing a role. And when they take power again, they're going to be authoritarian just like they were in 2020. And it's sad. That's why I am joining sides with the Libertarian Party, guys. I am sick and fucking tired of the two-party system, sick and tired of the uniparty, always screwing us over, always being corrupt, always starting new wars, always meddling in everybody's business, always overstepping the Constitution, and they're just, these two parties are just complete lost causes. So, what is the third largest party in the United States? It's the Libertarian Party. What party is against the corrupt merger of state and corporate power? It's the Libertarian Party. What party is really what I'd say for your money is the compromise between Democrats and Republicans because they offer things that both sides actually can agree upon and want? It's libertarianism. So that is why in 2026, I am going to become an official card carrying member of the Libertarian Party. I will pay my $20 due. I will get a subscription to the Libertarian Party magazine. I will be invited to the Libertarian Convention in my state, and I will get a card, and I will be a registered libertarian, and I will vote within the Libertarian Party for the primary and for the general election. If I do not like the Democrats or Republicans that are running in certain offices, I will vote Libertarian. So that is my solution to the Uniparty, and I hope that those of you at home would also consider it as well, because I feel like liberty is something that we can all agree on. It's something that can unite a lot of people together behind a movement. And if we can vote with our wallet and actually try to create a change, try to make a grassroots effort, once again, try to keep the hope alive instead of being all doom and gloom, instead of saying, oh, we can't do anything about it. I like to be a glass half full mindset, and I'd like to say, no, we have a party, we have something that we can work with. If we can just get away from this idea of, like, the main problem with the Libertarian Party is the gatekeeping. It is the purity testing, really. If we got rid of the gatekeeping and purity testing, and we started not getting away from party principles, I'm not advocating that, but if we started listening to other sides' opinions and having discussions, being right where we're right, admitting where we can improve, building a better party and convincing people to join teams with us, and getting candidates that are popular, that are populist, and that can provide a unity for us, I think we can actually make good headway and good change into the future. So yeah, that's really all I have to say on this podcast. My voice is getting tired. I'm tired, so I'm probably going to go to bed. I've been ranting all evening. Thank you, Rexus Prime, for the update in the comments as well on not Israel, on Ukraine and Russia. I wasn't talking about them right now, but thank you for bringing it up for those who can see here in the comment section. Thank you, Rexus Prime, for tuning in. I'm going to head out. Have a good night, guys. Hope you guys had a good one. And again, if you haven't already, be sure you guys leave a like, leave a comment, share, and subscribe for more epic, awesome, cool, funny, and interesting and entertaining content just like this one right here, right now on the Nomadic Cole YouTube channel. Have a good one. See you guys later. Rexus Prime says, my phone is on low battery as well. Alrighty, man. Well, you get your phone charged. Have a good night, Rexus Prime. See you on the next one. And remember, guys, stay safe, stay vigilant. This is the Nomadic Cole, signing off.